Gather round, we've returned. Union Smack, my God, is back. Both of us this time. Not a half-assed 50% episode. The boys are back in town. Alongside me, as always, the maniac, Matt Tennant, my co-host for this. What's going on, man? How you been? Where can everyone catch you and all that you do?
I've been if you've kept up with my Twitter, you know it's been a week. But you can catch me, as always, on Twitter at Bruisermate. Do follow the podcast on Twitter at Union Smack. You can listen to us now on Podbean, unionsmack.podbean.com, where you can find the links to all the other podcast platforms. Anchor.fm/union-smack, where you'll find the link to Pocket Cast. Go to unionsmack.bigcartel.com. So many, Travis. unionsmack.bigcartel.com, where you can pick up all your Hibiki TMD merchandise needs. ProWrestlingTees.com/unionsmack, where you can get the official Union Smack logo t-shirt. Lulu.com, where you can purchase a copy of both of my books. And if you missed any of that, then all of them links are available at the very top of our Podbean page. So there's no excuse not to listen, purchase, all of that good stuff.
Absolutely, and I hope, man, I did you proud when I did the solo little episode when I had to do all the plugs myself. It is rough. You guys underestimate. The more and more you grow, the harder and harder it is to promote yourself. It really is.
That's it. I've taken to literally writing it all down on the notepad on my phone now, because it's like I forget something every week.
As you heard, though, guys, check us out. Available pretty much on every single streaming service available. No reason not to check us out. And as always, right here, if you're checking us out on YouTube, Hibiki TMD, hit that red button down below. Please subscribe. We appreciate it. Man, the world sucks right now. I think that's a pretty accurate statement with the Ukraine stuff, just modern humanity in general and sensitivity. So it is very nice to get back in the fold right here, go down Retro Alley once again to the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest in your house pay-per-view the WWF ever did.
Yes, can't agree. No, we've sat through 15 now. This is in your house 16, and I'm not going to say from beginning to end, because I had to sit through the free-for-all, but from the start of the official show to the end, just a flawless effort, I think.
It's pretty damn good. It's near perfect. About as perfect, I guess, as you could get, considering especially at the time, as much as they're getting their ass kicked and kind of just the roster they had. I don't want to say the roster were scraps, but we're in a serious rebuilding mode at this time, especially with guys like The Rock. Austin was just about to hit that plateau. We're rebuilding. We had some huge talent leaving in the coming months of Bret Hart. So to see what they were able to pull off with the amount of talent on the other side that WCW had, just that stacked roster that it's kind of what we go through now. We say it all the time with modern WWE. You stack your roster so much, you're not going to know what to do with a lot of guys that deserve a lot better. Hence Cesaro leaving recently.
Yeah. I mean, Cesaro is going to be fine, but how do you fuck up someone like Cesaro? Main event, world champion written all over him, and he just got shit on for like a decade. He was with that company for damn near, 10, 12 years?
2012 he debuted.
10 years, so a decade. And they did almost nothing with him.
Isn't it crazy? This is unbelievable. And I've double-checked this, because I was like, when they released, I was like, what other titles did he hold? The only singles title he ever held was in his first year as Antonio Cesaro, when he had I think he had Oksana with him for a minute or some shit. But yeah, that's the only... Isn't that insane? Not even an IC run for Cesaro. That's criminal. That's fucking criminal.
Disgusting. The belt, the people you put that belt on over the last 10 years, and you couldn't even give him a 6-7 month strong reign. I mean, Nakamura has had it since August and did one defense? And you couldn't give anything to Cesaro over 10 years.
I'm seeing reports that, Ricochet, there's, quote, big plans for his push coming, a big push for him. Vince is really behind him. All of a sudden, after all these fucking years, Vince decides to push Ricochet, I guess. So, a lot of rumors this week that he's going to actually take that belt from Sami Zayn. And actually, I know we're getting off topic. I'll just get this in real quick. I actually would prefer this to happen if they're going to go ahead and do the rumored match with Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania. I'm fine with that as a spectacle because of the silly heel character Zayn is, and whatever. It's Mania. It's the company has always done this celebrity shit at WrestleMania. But if it's for the IC title, fuck that. So I think Johnny Knoxville costing Sami Zayn the loss this week would enhance their little quote rivalry going into Mania. That's what I would do. It doesn't need a title at all.
No, definitely get that title off of him before Mania. If Zayn versus Knoxville is the plan, but I can equally see them having Johnny Knoxville beat Sami Zayn for the title at WrestleMania, and then having Ricochet beat Johnny Knoxville for it on the SmackDown after it.
It's ridiculous that this is even a conversation we're having, if you think about it.
How did the wrestling world get to Johnny Knoxville, possible Intercontinental Champion in 2022? Where did we go so wrong?
If you think about it, you remember back in like when we were younger in like the 90s, and like every like future-esque movie or comic or whatever come out, it was always like 20XX set in the future. So, imagine in 1998, I was like 14, you're probably about to say, and someone's like, in the year 2022, Bill Goldberg will still be wrestling for world heavyweight titles on pay-per-view. Insane. Depressing.
The state of the wrestling world. Bill Goldberg still wrestling in his 50s. Johnny Knoxville, possible Intercontinental Champion. Wasted talent. Just... Jesus Christ! If this we know this would have been the future, then I might have stopped watching in 2004.
And look, I've always been a fan of the Jackass movies and CKY and that whole gang or whatever, but not with my wrestling. Keep it. This may, I think, when I double fact check this show, is this the only time the WWF has ever done a pay-per-view in Calgary?
I think so. I mean, I couldn't be 100% sure. Survivor Series 97 was Montreal, but I can't remember another pay-per-view coming from Calgary. Obviously, we might be completely wrong and one might have snuck under, but I'm going to say you're correct.
Which is weird, too, because this crowd was on fire. And I'm sure they've gone back for like Raws and SmackDowns and all that bullshit. And I can understand probably why after the screw job, they probably held off doing shows on TV in this building. But I would put this crowd on par with a Chicago or an MSG at the peak. Like this is one of the best crowds I've ever seen. Maybe the best crowd too this company's ever had for a show, and that speaks volumes.
Oh, they were at this from the very beginning. And just for a minute, let's go back to the very beginning, Travis. The free-for-all match. I know you didn't see this. It was the Godwins versus the New Blackjacks, and it was the heel Godwins, just overalls, nothing else, as if they couldn't get any more disgusting. And the crowd treated this like it was the main event. They didn't care that the match was dog shit. They didn't care that Barry Windham was just in rotten shape. They were out of their seats for everything. Bradshaw hit Phineas Godwin with a simple boot, and the reaction it got, you'd have thought Bret Hart had won the WWF Championship. It was like something I haven't seen for years and years and years.
And it makes me depressed because I miss this. I truly miss this organic. The crowd isn't on their phone tweeting on their Twitter during the show, worried about taking video, making fucking TikToks and their vlogs and all this shit. No, just pure fucking heat and fun. My God. And it feels like the only time you get that is if you go take the family to a house show. But on the other end, they're house shows, so they're pointless.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
The free-for-all sounds like shit. And I don't know why. Out of all the teams they could have picked at this time to resurrect the gimmick and make a new version of the Blackjacks. The Blackjacks didn't even age well by the 80s, for God's sake.
Let's be honest, anything with new before it, just doomed to fail. New Blackjacks, new Rockers, new Midnight Express. They were on a roll in 97, 98 with new teams.
They loved it. And it's ironic that the most successful, longest rating team of all time was the New Day, an original act. Jesus, my head's going to explode.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you're correct.
I will say I loved this version of the Godwins way better than the Hillbilly Jim smiling little baby pigs with them.
I,
the,
I
the,
mean, there was more intensity to them, but in the ring, I think for me they got worse, if anything, in the ring. Even more so when they went on to Southern Justice and all that just pointlessness. But in this match, it was rotten, Travis. To be honest, the fans treated it like it was the Hearts, but the action was terrible. The Godwins looked like shit. The new Blackjacks looked like shit. It was full of distraction. Phineas Godwin rolls up Barry Windham with an inside cradle for the win, just after 5 minutes of sloppy shit. That's the best I could describe it.
and by the way, this new version of the Blackjacks has only been around since like February or something at this point. And like out of the gate, they're just straight up job guys. It's like, what's the point? What's the fucking point? Say what you want about WWF, like leaning more towards Edge at this time and starting to get it and wake up to what fans want. The tag division was still in the doldrums, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely the doldrums. I mean, the Legion of Doom were not themselves. The Godwins were just bad. The new Blackjacks were terrible. You'd have the new Midnight Express not too far down the line. They were just like a bad parody of Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane.
Yeah.
It was desperation, I think, for the tag team division.
And a lot of, especially with the Midnight Express, this was a time too where the product was getting more and more new eyes just because of mainstream like Sable and Austin and stuff like that. So these were fans that had they didn't know what the fuck the NWA was. So to them, an act like the new Midnight Express, they just saw these two guys with mullets that felt out of time, and it was just lame.
And not just two guys with mullets, but two guys with mullets that had been plucked from the mid card. Sparky Plug and one half of the Smoking Guns.
And two guys also, their names sure the fuck didn't help their case either.
Bombastic Bob.
Bob Holly may go down in that company as the guy with maybe the worst names. Sparky Plug. Yeah. Bombastic
Bob.
Let's get to the good stuff. This finally kicks off. Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm getting a little echo, by the way, on your mic. Like I can hear myself. There we go. We're good. This kicks off with a straight-up cowboy theme. Canadian Stampede. The most ridiculous fucking cowboy hat I've ever seen in my life, Matt. Jerry Lawler.
Oh, Jerry Lawler. I mean, they all look fucking terrible, but A+ for effort, Z+ for dress sense.
He had a little crown design around the brim. The king of the cowboys, though, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, but like an A+ for effort, Z- for design. But I think it added, to the whole thing. The crowd loved it. Canadian Stampede. Commentators are dressed up. It gave it all, I think, a different feel from black tie and bow ties and suits and all that shit.
For sure. And it makes this show that much more memorable.
Exactly.
This show kicked off with possibly one of the most underrated matches in the history of both these guys' careers, Matt.
Yes. Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Mankind in a repeat of the King of the Ring final. We'd just come off of King of the Ring. This was July, I think?
Yeah.
Around there. Helmsley had just beat Mankind to become the 97 King of the Ring. And this match trumped that match, Travis, in every way possible. Like, we've been very critical of Hunter Hearst Helmsley on previous editions of In Your House. His matches against Mark Moreau, the one against Austin, they just weren't very good at all. But it was like, I don't know, Mick Foley came into his career and into his life, and Helmsley just flipped a switch, and he became a different wrestler. Because this Helmsley, compared to the previous Triple H, unrecognisable.
I agree. Do you think that Triple H had, in his entire career, the best chemistry ever with Mick Foley?
It's impossible to say no. because the '97 feud, which went way beyond this into SummerSlam, and then they had that '99 spat over the title, the 2000 Royal Rumble, the 2000 No Way Out, Hell in a Cell. I would put Mick Foley up there as number one on Triple H's enemy list as far as chemistry and in ring work went.
It's got to be him or Michaels, I feel like.
I mean, I would go. I mean, obviously, Rock and Michaels probably have to be in the top 5, but I think Foley would be number one just because of the time that he struck Triple H's career. Because Triple H, and I think we said this, what was it, 15? Triple H's career was on sort of a nosedive, really, until Mick Foley came into it. The Intercontinental title reign was no good at all, really. Yeah. The whole thing with Mark Moreau died a death. The small feud against Rocky Maivia was forgettable. And without Mick Foley at this time in his career, I think he probably could have been released in '97.
I know it said a lot that Mick Foley's my favorite wrestler of all time. These two guys, though, just these two are responsible for so many of my favorite moments. The Cactus Jack return on Raw in September of this year. That was amazing. One of my favorite matches of all time, the Royal Rumble 2000 Street Fight.
And that match for me was the match that really cemented Triple H's run as a main eventer.
Possibly the most important match of his career, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, a lot of people would look to, the Hell in a Cell a month later and go, Mick Foley went through the Hell in a Cell. Triple H looked like a badass. But if you go back to the Royal Rumble 2000, people were still unsure about Triple H as a champion, as a main event star. But Mick Foley came in and half killed himself in a way to make sure that Triple H could go on from there as a believable face of the company.
And there's a reason that we brought up the 2000 Royal Rumble match as opposed to the No Way Out 2000 match. And all podcasts usually bring that one up over the No Way Out match because it's just more memorable.
It's a work of art, Travis.
Yes, violent art.
It's not violent just to be violent. There's a reason and an art to the way they do it. It's not GCW. Yeah. It's not Nick Gage slicing himself open for the fun of it. It's actual art, and you don't get that very often.
Look, I love Atsushi Onita, and I love FMW, the original. But see, I think the difference with Onita and Gage is that was Onita's gimmick, is that he's this invincible superhero guy. You just can't hurt Onita because it was his promotion.
Yeah, I agree. But Mick Foley and Triple H, you could put this up against any death match, any FMW match. This will stand the test of time. People will remember the Royal Rumble 2000 match for decades and decades to come. I doubt anyone in 50 years' time, Travis, could tell me, an FMW match off by heart that was so good that it elevated the careers of both men that were in it.
We left out another integral part of this match. There's a third person in this match that made this match over the top and completely work. And the best part of her entire career, by the way, is right this little stretch for me. Chyna.
He was brilliant. Every time the ref turned his back, she was on top of Mankind. She made it more real, this match.
Yep. And she was so important to Triple H in his career, too, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, like when Mick Foley came into Triple H's career, he changed it for the better. Chyna, I think, at least for me as a viewer, I can't find the right word. She sort of spiced him up, Triple H. He was this one-dimensional blue blood character, and then she came in and it was like, oh, hang on a minute, there's a different side to him. And the longer she stayed with him, and the more they did together, obviously, it's like you almost forgot that blue blood side of him existed, because China sort of transitioned him into the DX Triple H, and then Mick Foley obviously worked on his in ring.
And for better or for worse, another thing about this match, man, I'm sorry for the feedback, guys. I hope this isn't ruining the episode because I keep hearing myself every time I talk. This match kind of set off the trend of the hardcore title and the backstage brawls and stuff like that too. Another underappreciated aspect about this match.
Yeah, I love that they didn't just keep it in the ring. The story obviously helped to, bring them out of the ring of just another match. They brawled around the ring. They brawled into the crowd, and the crowd ate it up. Could this, Travis, yes or no, top Leif Cassidy versus Flash Funk as the best opening in your house match thus far?
I think it has a slight chance.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that.
Just by a hair. Pulled it out. Obvious, and this is probably the best one we're going to get until we reach the end of the In Your Houses. Wait,
yeah,
no,
I don't.
Yeah. So I was thinking of the cage match, but the cage match was at SummerSlam, so yeah, that doesn't count.
No, I don't recall any other opening in your house match now until we get to the end of this journey that's as good as this. We might be wrong. We might have, forgot a hidden gem or something that might have aged better than we originally remembered when we get to it. But for me, this is going to take some beating.
And like I just said, this would go on to the summer of '97, and we got ourselves quite the rivalry. I would say an unplanned rivalry. I can't imagine like the booking team sat down and thought this was going to be a feud for months and planned this out. I think it's just one of those things that kind of happened and it was perfect and fell into place.
Yeah, genetic, organic. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
It developed organically, and if I was back, I'd be rubbing my hands at the prospects, just because this, obviously, like we've said, wouldn't just go into the summer of '97. It would roll over to points in '98, end of '99, beginning of 2000. So this was the beginning of, an on and off 3.5 year feud.
What'd you think of the finish?
I mean, I didn't mind the finish. Double count out, protected both men. I don't think Mankind. I mean, no, actually, he could have probably took another clean loss if it hadn't been clean. If you see what I'm trying to say, China interferes, pedigree, etc. But I don't think anyone really cared about the finish because the match was so good, and obviously it didn't just end here. We'd see them over the next segment or two, fighting through the crowd into the back out into the crowd.
Yep.
So I think this was a means to get the SummerSlam cage match up and running. And for once, I didn't hate a non-finish.
Completely agree. Non-finish done right.
There you go. And this is how good it can look and the effect it can have if you actually plan it out and put some thought into it rather than just panicking and throwing it out onto TV.
Panicking at the disco. Where'd that take us to next, Matt?
That took us to a video package of Stampede Parade in Calgary. We saw Brett doing some fan service, as I call it. We saw a tug of war contest. And then just really, it was a video package, Travis, that showed us how loved Bret Hart was in Canada.
Yeah, he was the Jesus Christ of Calgary, I think it's fair to say.
That's a good, actually.
And you would think watching the main event later on that it was literally like they were watching Jesus Christ in the ring behind him 100%.
Yeah. So that is the reaction. Every time that the Harts came on, I mean, after this, we got a backstage interview with the Hart Foundation and Doc Hendricks, and you couldn't really hear a lot of what they were saying because the crowd reaction was so loud.
Yeah. Let's just see the infamous little clip from Beyond the Mat where they're going over the promo, and he's like, "We're going to get hungry and forget our manners." Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I saw that. That's one of my favourite documentaries ever. Not just wrestling, but I think ever Beyond the Mat.
Oh, it might have been Wrestling with Shadows.
That's a strong contender. But for me, I think. What did I see first? I think I obviously saw Wrestling with Shadow. I think you might have got it first in America, but I think Beyond the Mat and Wrestling with Shadows came out over here sort of at the same time.
It's roundabout, yeah.
Beyond, yeah, Beyond the Mat, I saw on VHS, but the Bret Hart documentary was actually on BBC Two first over here,
Nice.
and I remember, I think my grandfather recorded it for me, and so yeah, they were both about the same time for me, but I think Beyond the Mat just tips it to the post.
And before we fail to neglect, I'm going to say it right now, for those unaware of the USA versus Calgary feud going on, wherever the Hearts went in the US, they were despised, they were hated. But anywhere they went in Canada this time, they were treated like Hogan in 85, a hero's goddamn welcome. This storyline and the Mega Powers storyline are my two favorite storylines this company has ever done in their history.
And again, who could disagree with you? Just the innovation of
Assholes
it.
who want to be contrary.
Yeah, or Twitter, as it's commonly known today. But this was innovative. The way WWF just allowed it to grow and bought into it, just credit to all involved because you'll never see anything like this again,
Ever.
ever.
The only way you could, excuse me, the only way they could garner this kind of heat today, and it will never happen, but if they could do a cross promotion AEW versus WWE show.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first invasion, wherever that happened, be it Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, would get, I think, that reaction. But for me, I think it would wear off by second month. To just another wrestling feud.
Take this with a grain of salt, guys. But I feel like if Rusev was doing the gimmick he was in 2015, right now with what's going on in the world, maybe you could get a little bit of that kind of heat.
I mean, it's possible. I think more Dragunov because he's actually Russian.
Right.
But, I don't think it's for us to go into right now with what's happening and lives being lost. But
that begs the question, though, before we get way off topic, do you think they're going to reel back a little bit with Dragunov, considering what's going on right now?
If we got a question for Question Time episode 2, which is coming everyone's way at the end of this month. So I don't want to go too much into it, so we can save it for the. But I think we could possibly see the end of Dragunov's title reign coming shortly.
Oh, shame. After this promo with the Hearts, Matt, where are we headed to next? On Calgary Stampede.
We are headed to some cruiserweight or light heavyweight, as they called it back then, action. Taka Michinoku versus the Great Suzuki.
Yes.
And I thought, but when this match started, Travis, I thought I was going to hate it because it didn't. I don't know. It didn't live up to the promise of a light heavyweight clash. My mind was more going with Mysterio, Guerrero, Halloween Havoc, and it wasn't that intense. But I quite like this, and I can see why Vince McMahon thought a light heavyweight title and a light heavyweight division would work.
Yeah.
Sadly, it didn't.
A lot of people know Taka Michinoku as a meme or from Kai and Tai as a comedy character. But you see him in this little glimpse when they first brought him in. I mean, you can see why they brought him in. Unbelievable performer. Same with Great Sasuke, a legend over there. Michinoku Pro Wrestling, basically, is what this was. This was their answer to counteracting the cruiserweight division of WCW, like you said.
Yeah, and as a palate cleanser, it worked very well. You watch this, you think, do you know what? I want to see more of this. I want to see more of these stars. What else have they got to offer? Unfortunately, by the time we get to In Your House 17, 18, it's Brian Christopher and Scott Putski, and they went from Taka Michinoku to Scott Putski very, very quickly, and it just wasn't the same.
And it's excuse me, I think sadly the Raw after that in your house, Putski hurt his knee live on TV and was never seen again.
I think that was in your house against Brian Christopher. I watched that. I am 2 or 3 in your houses ahead, and I'm sure I saw that on in your house.
Can't wait to review that.
Oh, I can. It's not a great. So.
This, however, in my opinion, see, I've always preferred the Japanese style of light heavyweights as opposed to the AAA Mexican style Lucha Libre. It's just more believable to me, and it looks more competitive.
Yeah, I mean, this was more believable than any like AAA or any of that. But because the reason it wasn't just high flying, it wasn't just springing off the ropes for the sake of it. There was submission holds in this. Mm-hmm. They felt each other out. They didn't just go at it hell for leather. So, it's more believable than just flying around the ring for 15 minutes for no reason whatsoever.
Looked like a struggle, a competitive struggle, something that's sorely fucking missing in modern wrestling. I'm so tired of seeing it. The fans, if they were on their feet before for the new Blackjacks, their minds were blown in this match, I feel like.
I'm surprised they had anything left, to be honest, by the time I got to the main event. But credit to the Canadian audience who were having for some wrestling, apparently.
To any of our Canadian listeners, I don't know the rules over there, but did they hand out free cocaine at the entrance at this time?
Just little bags. Here, have a line. Here. 15,000 people smacked off their tits. Brilliant.
50,000 Kerry Von Erichs. What'd you think of the finish of this match, Matt?
Finish of this match. It was not the finish I expected. Not even the finish I remembered. So I must have been somewhere in the back of my mind. There must have been like a Raw match between these two, but I didn't mind it. Michinoku hits the Michinoku driver, but Grand Suzuki kicks out, counters with a dive. With a front kick and a lovely Tiger driver for the win. I think they probably wanted Suzuki to be a bigger star than he was, but Michinoku stole, I think, fans' imaginations.
I'm pretty sure he was supposed to stay on board like Taka did, but I think it came down to money. They just couldn't come to terms on money.
Plus, for me, if I was the great Suzuki... I'd have looked at the plans for the light heavyweight division and I would have said, do you know what? Thanks, but I think I'll stay where I am.
I think he did all right for himself.
That's it, yeah.
You want to go back to Japan and be treated like a king, or you want to stay here and wrestle Scott Putski 2 matches in?
For a title that means absolutely nothing. Oh, let me think.
Oh, let me entice you with dangerous Devon Storm in the Cruiserweight division.
Oh, how did they fuck this up? Just all the potential, Travis, in the world. Like, all you had to do was have stars of this quality and just, let them really book themselves. Say you've got 10 minutes, make the most of it like these did. And it worked. But no. Let's put the WWF influence on it.
I think them doing a division in general was doomed to fail because it was always because WCW, say what you want about the company at the time, they broke new ground with showcasing all these guys from all over the world. So anything the WWF did to counteract that was just going to look like desperation and a carbon copy. Plus, WCW had the elite of the elite in the cruiserweight division in the entire world. So, and no disrespect to Devon Storm, Super Loco, all these fucking guys, El Pantera, these were scraps of what was left. Scott Taylor.
It's true, they were scraps of what, and they brought in the Mexicans as well, and I don't think that helped. You mix in Mexican and Japanese styles. The Cyberneticos, all that bollocks. It was a nice idea, Travis. On paper, it looked brilliant. In execution, this was the highlight of it, and it was the pilot, if you like.
And it comes down to execution too, and that speaks to how good Paul Heyman was with what he was doing in ECW at the time. Because I say scraps, but two of these quote scraps I talk about, Tajiri and Super Crazy were on Raw at this time. So Paul Heyman took that clash of styles and made some beautiful shit with those two in ECW. Some of the best cruiserweight matches I've ever seen were Super Crazy and Tajiri.
Again, I think it comes down to style. It comes down to knowing what you're doing.
Booking.
I don't think a lot of them, the stars that they brought into the WWF, really understood that they were playing to a different audience, and their styles didn't really gel with what the WWF wanted. Had they been allowed to, free reign over the division, fine. But they were reined in. The company didn't really have a clue what, a cruiserweight division should look like as a whole.
Yeah.
It died a death, 2 months later?
Exactly. And it's crazy, for everything Vince McMahon has just turned to gold throughout his entire resume. Cruiserweight wrestling is something the company has always kind of started off a little bit strong, and then we sputter, and then immediately every time they try a cruiserweight division, it either becomes fucking boring, uninteresting, or it just goes away, like 205 Live, the Cruiserweight Classic. Like, what was the highlight of the Cruiserweight era in 06? Like, Gregory Helms. Oh, boy.
Not even a hurricane.
No.
Just plain old Gregory Helms.
Let's watch Chavo Guerrero win the Cruiserweight title 27 fucking times. And let's just squander Ultimo Dragon while we're at it. Cause he tripped at WrestleMania 20. He's done. Fuck him. What an asshole.
It's sad but true.
Sad but true. Moving along, Matt. Where are we headed next on this show?
There, we get a video package of 2 weeks ago on Raw, and Nation of Domination, and now a heel Ahmed Johnson beating up the Disciples of Apocalypse like anyone cared. And this ends with Ahmed Johnson legitimately injuring his knee. Couldn't even walk without tearing something. What a joke.
We sound like the most evil, maniacal, cynical assholes laughing at an injury, but when that's your career and you're the meme because of that, fuck off. Like,
It's just ridiculous that they brought him in to be this great big star, and he injured his, I think, liver or kidney. Mm-hmm. Then he does his knee in, and that's basically the end of Ahmed Johnson in the WWF. He couldn't face The Undertaker as planned for the title.
Right.
And they had no more use for him. So they brought in Vader to face The Undertaker, carried on the pallbearer grudge, and for me, Vader and The Undertaker was much better than Ahmed Johnson and The Undertaker ever would have been, because I don't think Mark Calloway ever had the patience to work, a proper feud, and especially a pay-per-view match of 20-25 minutes.
Yeah.
Someone like Ahmed Johnson.
Just the thought of Ahmed Johnson going 25 minutes just seems like something's wrong in the world. That doesn't feel right at all.
Can you imagine what that would have looked like?
Ugh.
Worryingly, can you imagine what would have happened if he'd have injured The Undertaker?
Oh my God. It would have been up there. Mabel crushed his eye socket, and I don't even think Undertaker would have been as pissed. Because Mabel was actually liked backstage and didn't act like a cocky piece of shit like Ahmed Johnson did from interviews I've heard with guys.
Exactly. And oh my God.
I will say this, injury prone or not, kidneys, I think that he was done after this one of the worst booking decisions they've ever taken with an up-and-coming babyface. This heel turn to join the Nation, it made no sense, period. It 100% confused me. It confused all the fans at the time who still gave a shit about Ahmed Johnson. And even with the Windsor Changer blowing, with Steve Austin was about to take the reins as the top guy, Ken Shamrock was coming, and Ahmed was going to fade into obscurity anyway, but this just rushed that up way more, because as soon as this angle went down, nobody gave a shit about Ahmed Johnson. They were done. They felt like their time was wasted. As did I.
And you know what? and I counted this, Travis. Ahmed Johnson... This was his trajectory after WrestleMania.
Ooh,
feuding with the Nation of Domination in May, joined them in June, injured in July, returned in August, and got turned on by the nation, and then fired.
Mm. Didn't Ahmed get fired because he refused a job to Kurgan in like early '98?
That is the story I've always heard.
Wow. Why is it every guy in that company who wears bright orange ends up either choking out Vince or like just getting fired for refusing the job? Nails.
A good question. But do you know what?
Please pick up the pieces of the show, Matt, please.
Let's move on from Ahmed Johnson. Doc Hendricks backstage with Vader and a fair-headed pallbearer, though no sign of... That came out of nowhere.
Fair-headed pallbearer.
It was a fair-headed pallbearer with no sign of third-degree burns at all from that mishmash of a botch with Mankind and The Undertaker. But we're very much now into Kane territory, with Paul Bearer beginning to blame The Undertaker for murdering his family. And then...
that sentence is amazing. It still holds up.
Oh, crud. Oh, I'm having so much fun tonight. It's ridiculous. Then we go right back to the Royal Rumble. And Vader beating The Undertaker, just like it happened a month ago. Forget all the stuff in between, Travis. Like, let's remind people of what happened nearly 6 months ago, just to build up one match on pay-per-view, because we didn't have time to come up with anything else thanks to Ahmed Johnson.
It's up there with Naomi and Sasha Banks being, hey, we were in a stable like 5 years ago. Let's get a tag team title shot.
Boy, am I looking forward to that.
But I know we don't have a lot, but I know we have a couple female listeners, and we love you and we appreciate you. But there it is, pro tip. If you're tired, ladies, of spending money out the ass on hair dye, just set yourself on fire, dye your hair. Save money.
Oh, did they ever? I can't remember, Travis. Did they ever explain the fact? Did they ever come out on TV and say, Paul Bearer's hair is now blonde because that's the colour it went when he was burnt?
No.
Because that's the only explanation I can think of. There's no way he woke up one morning and went, do you know what would look good on me? Oh, fuck.
At least he didn't do the old school Percy Pringle bleach blonde when he was managing Rick Rude in World Class.
I mean, he should have just gone the whole way with it. It looked like a bad dye job. It was never explained. Like, he might as well have gone the whole hog and just, gone complete Charlotte Flair with it.
Getting back to the actual match, what did you think of Vady and Takey?
I thought it was better than their Royal Rumble match.
Same.
It was Vader, surprisingly quite popular with the Canadian audience, but then, that's not saying much when everybody was pretty much popular apart from Steve Austin. There were, Undertaker, almost as if he was Canadian. That's how he was, welcomed. I thought Paul Bearer did a great job throughout this match of cowering away from the Undertaker. It was a good big man match, Travis.
I agree. I think it was way better than the Royal Rumble match. And it's crazy that Undertaker was treated so well in this match, considering a month later he was going against their Jesus for the title.
Exactly. If anyone apart from Austin was going to be, treated as a antichrist, then it would have been the Undertaker. But no, again, they just respected him. They loved the fact that they got to witness the entrance. And so many people have said I've been in the arena for that entrance, and it was just the most spine-chilling thing I've ever sat through. And they loved every minute of it. They loved every minute of this bout. They loved every minute of every bout, even the free-for-all match. And I was very impressed. Not with the referee, because there were a lot of low blows and stuff in this match, which he just looked at the ref and just went, never mind. But got Vader up for the tombstone as well. Like, Mark Calloway was on form at Your House 16.
Undertaker was obviously a very tall-looking guy on TV, and he was big, but I think he never looked like like a Herculean, god. So he was very deceptively strong, I feel like.
Yeah, because you look at Vader and you look at the Undertaker and you think, as tall as he is, there's no way he's going to get someone like Vader up for a tombstone. He couldn't do it to Yokozuna, but obviously Vader was a little bit taller, a little bit more agile to allow Mark Calloway to do a few more things than he could with a Kamala or a Yokozuna.
It's ironic that both of these guys, well, one of them is officially going in the Hall of Fame this year. The other one, I've heard rumors that Vader is going in as well. Real quick, because I know with the book and everything and your love for Undertaker, we got to throw this in. What are your thoughts on Taker going in the Hall of Fame? I think he should have gone in by himself. Nobody else.
Yeah, that's the general consensus. But then I think Vince McMahon was probably worried that not would it sell tickets, but then would people go, well, can Mark Calloway really hold what? I mean, the Hall of Fame is...
Well, they're airing it after SmackDown, right?
Yeah, which is... I don't like that at all.
Either. Me
yeah,
either.
I like the actual spectacle of it being its own thing, not just the afterthought of SmackDown.
I'm such a mark. I wish they would go back. I would love it. The nostalgia with me. Like all the old WWF shows were reviewed in 95 where they just had like the little banquets at those Hall of Fames. That would be amazing. Just reel it back.
Do that. A little banquet table, scattered guests here and there, and let him do a 45-minute speech. I'm sure he can talk for 45 minutes if he wants to.
And God knows this company loves saving fucking money. So how much goddamn fucking money you think this would save, Matt?
I have no idea. But obviously, I mean, why are they worried about spending money when they've just net a gross profit of $1 billion?
Because they're greedy pigs.
This isn't... Look, I know the Hall of Fame in a lot of people's minds is pointless. People go in who don't deserve it, and that is true. But people have been waiting for this induction for a long, long time. So why would you not make it special? He had to retire in front of no fucking fans. So why would you not give him the grand ceremony? I just don't understand the train of thought behind, we've made so much money, we've got this legend here that people have waited years and years to see inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Maybe the most important induction people have been waiting on too, of all time. Besides like Austin and Hogan, right?
I would say even more so than Austin and Hogan. But then you just go, you know what, fuck it, we'll throw it on after SmackDown. We'll do a 2-for-1 ticket. No, yeah. Why don't these people get this anymore? And I know, it's all about, having to save money and making the company more attractive to possibly sell in the future. But if you're going to spend money out, Travis, if you're going to make a spectacle of one thing, it should have been this.
How amazing would it have been if they did it not in like the big arena, but like at the amphitheaters they used to do the Hall of Fames in the mid 2000s, but like just Taker being inducted and the setup is like a eulogy at a funeral.
That would be amazing,
right? Get. I know they have it in the fucking warehouse. Get the old talk show thing that Paul Bear had. Get all that shit out.
It would be great. Set up the funeral parlor. Set up the Undertaker's workshop. Have it like almost like not an interactive experience, but the stage is set up like on the far left. You've got the old workshop that he used to build the coffins for Kamala and Yokozuna. Then you've got like the funeral parlor set next to it, and all around the stage you've just got sets and iconic things from his various incarnations.
Yeah.
That would be brilliant. Even if it only lasted an hour. 15 minutes for whoever's inducting him to talk, 45 minutes for him, or 30 minutes for him, and a 10-minute video package on his career. People would pay the traditional Hall of Fame price just for that hour, rather than to sit there for 3 hours and see 8 people inducted who they don't really care about or have never heard of, and then The Undertaker at the end.
On top of going back to their favorite fucking thing again, saving money, the funeral parlor, the Undertaker's workshop, they already have this shit. They don't have to build anything.
Exactly.
My
They
God.
come up with, or Fightful come up with. There's no excuse of why he couldn't have been inducted on his own in a special ceremony and not just thrown on after SmackDown.
WWE once again overthinks the most simplest shit. There's no reason that two fucking guys on Discord can book an amazing Hall of Fame induction, but these fucking morons who get paid millions of dollars to be creative writers can't do this. What's wrong with this equation?
It's because the people they hire, they don't know about wrestling. They're from the TV industry. They write for Sci-Fi Channel. They write for these fucking terrible comedies and dramas that we're forced to sit and watch on Netflix and all this bollocks.
Yeah.
You need wrestling writing. We've said this for years, Travis. You need wrestling writers to write a wrestling show, and they don't have them people. We've seen it in the booking. We've seen how bad it's got, and it's going to get even worse because Vince McMahon loves the fact that he's got tested and tried Hollywood writers on his team.
Exactly. I do wonder what the plans were for Ahmed Johnson if he didn't get injured.
God. I heard that they were thinking about putting the title on him. I don't know whether it was here. I don't know whether it would have been at SummerSlam, whether the whole Shawn Michaels Undertaker thing would have happened or not had Ahmed Johnson not got injured. But I have heard throughout the years, and obviously when writing the book, that they were at one point going to put the title on Ahmed Johnson.
Woof.
That sound for everyone listening was Travis's soul dying.
No, that was actually me throwing up in my mouth a little bit, is what that sound was.
God. But the end of this match, while you recover from that, Vader goes for the Vader bomb. Undertaker hits a low blow, choke slam from the second rope, and then Vader runs into an impressive tombstone pile driver. Undertaker wins pinfall.
Place loses their fucking minds. Obviously, Taker retains, like you said, and we're off to wrestle Bret Hart at SummerSlam.
Oh dear. Yes, that I still hate that finish of that match. I know it's set up Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker, and we'll get into that in Your House 17.
It totally made Undertaker seem like an afterthought. And this guy's been carrying the title. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, hated it. But again, it did a job of building a bigger picture, much as I disliked it. Next up, Travis, we get more footage of Bret Hart. As if we needed any convincing that he was God in Canada by now, but more footage.
I don't know. I wasn't sold yet, so I appreciated them convincing me that he was over because I didn't think he was that over until they showed me this one. Then I was like, all right, now he's over. Because it took 2 video clips, but I got it. Now he's over.
And then oh Jesus! And then Doc Hendricks with Austin, Legion of Doom, Shamrock, and Goldust. And again, the audio wasn't great because the boos from the audience just on form again. It's like they didn't care what Austin had to say. They knew he was going to trash America. They knew they were trash Canada. Sorry, they knew they were all going to do that, and so this was, I think, one of the first examples, Travis, of a crowd hijacking a show.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was all the better for it. Sometimes you get crowds that hijack shows, and it's intrusive. It takes away from the show. It takes away from the wrestling. But, now and again, a crowd can hijack a show, and it just adds to the aura of the show. The NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool shows that the crowd hijacked, they were made all the better for it. I've seen clips of GCW shows where crowds have hijacked that, and it looks like complete dog shit.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've seen the video of Joey Janela attacking the crowd.
Pathetic. What an unprofessional piece of shit.
I mean, all I could do was laugh because that one video alone, and this isn't about Joey Janela, but that one video alone has just showed the world, I think, everything that people like us have been saying about him for 3 years.
I'll say this about Joey Janela and what a fragile little bitch he is about that situation. Mick Foley in ECW in 1995 had to wrestle in front of these fat, gross Mark fans holding up signs saying to cane his in real life son, and he didn't attack that fan because he's a fucking professional.
Egos, Travis. Egos are more fragile in 2020.
Because Joey Janela looks like shit. AEW is done with him. He's insecure. He's the epitome of an insecure little fuck.
Oh God, this show is just turned into one of the best I think we've ever done.
You want to know a depressing thought before we got on Janela? I was going to say how and it goes back to how important atmosphere is. And one of the lost things about modern wrestling, certain AEW pay-per-views definitely have that, but not on this level. Imagine this match booked exactly the same way in front of a modern Monday Night Raw crowd.
Dude, it'd be dead. There'd be no reaction. It'd play to crickets. It doesn't even worth thinking about that this story or a match of this magnitude would be put on in this day and age. Because you wouldn't get that sense of epicness or that sense of magnitude about anything. You know, I don't even get it about Roman and Brock Lesnar, and that's meant to be brilliant. And I understand why they booked it. I understand, etc., etc. But I don't think a match they're advertising as the greatest WrestleMania or the biggest WrestleMania match of all time. That won't get the tenth of the reaction that this got on a B-level pay-per-view.
I mean, it has the potential to be hijacked. Anytime you put these two in a title match at WrestleMania, it has the potential to get hijacked. The women's title match, above all, has the potential to get hijacked. Ronda Rousey and Charlotte.
I think fans aren't that bothered.
Hijacked in a bad way, not in the good way like this, I want to add.
I don't think fans care that much anymore. I think, and I don't want to get into, wrestling's crap in 2022 tirade, but I think we've been beaten down as fans so often now and let down and disappointed that I don't think the energy or the will is there to really hijack a show anymore. Because it's like, what's the point? They don't listen. We're wasting our time. Yeah, it looks and sounds good on television, and feeling in the audience would be brilliant if we did that. But it's not going to accomplish anything.
It's the case. The situation is that WWE fans don't want to hate the product. We're ready to come unglued and ready to invest. The problem is we don't get that. We just continuously have our intelligence insulted, and now that they're on the streaming shit and bigger than ever, they're going to try to appeal to more casuals. But see, they're losing their diehards at the risk of it. And as for as unpopular as pro wrestling is in the modern era, you can't afford to do that. I don't give a fuck what TV deal you signed. Eventually, people are going to stop coming to fucking Raw. Look at the hard cam side of Raw from this week. It's laughable.
Yeah, you see the pictures and you think, is that going to teach them? But of course it's not. Nothing's going to teach. This is the company that successfully carried on a product through an era with no fan. They don't care if no one turns up. They've got a B plan. You know what I mean? If everybody just disappeared from the audience, no tickets were sold.
Thunderdome.
Exactly. They'll line up the Thunderdome, and they'll carry on regardless.
Oh, Jesus Christ. People show up now when they do fake crowd noise. Look at that Ronda Rousey promo a couple weeks ago. Look at the people. They weren't moving, but you wouldn't know that.
WWE control their own narrative, Travis.
Because they can find... Vince McMahon has gotten what he's always wanted. You know what that is, guys and Matt? Vince McMahon's goal has been to be as rich as possible to where he can control his own narrative, EC3 style, with crowds. He's in a position now where he doesn't need us to come to the shows.
Sad, isn't it? It's sad that he can literally control the crowd.
Yeah.
That's where we're at in 2022. Vince McMahon is so rich and so powerful in the wrestling business that he can control every aspect of it. Doesn't matter whether we're there or not. He has the power to control the crowd with or without them there.
For all the people that have fallen out of love with the product and feel betrayed by Vince McMahon, let me make this perfectly clear to someone that hasn't been paying attention. This has been Vince McMahon's plan since he took the company from his dad in the early 80s in 84. This was his grand scheme all along, trust and believe, because at the end of the day, he's a businessman. For better or worse, this is exactly what he wanted. Which is why people... I know he's best in small doses and he's weird and he's a dork, but I'm thankful for a promoter like Tony Khan that is genuinely this lifelong Mark fan with a rich dad. He just genuinely loves pro wrestling.
Well, I mean, can you see it getting to a point? And we're going to move on to the main event in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see it getting to a point, Travis, where AEW is not, I don't think they'll ever be as rich as WWE, but where they get as successful when Tony Khan just thinks, you know what, I can control everything. And, the power starts to go to his head a bit.
I think the power's already going to his head on certain situations, especially that whole Big Swole situation, how he handled that fiasco in a public forum. I don't think it would ever get to the point where he controls the crowd. I think it could get to a point, this might sound crazy, but I feel like in 10 years from now, if WWE continues on this rate with the quality, money or not, you need fans. You need buzz. I could see the tide turning completely.
I guess only time will tell.
The key to wrestling since the beginning of the Carney days and Lou Thez, fan service. Fan fucking service. Not investors and their fat pockets and networks. Fan service is always, at the end of the day, trumps everything in pro wrestling.
That's true. That is true. But are WWE going to find that they don't need fans when these TV companies are paying them millions, when they're getting billions from the Saudis? No. It's like, to a degree, Travis, WWE are always going to have people that watch. Whether they control the fans, whether they piss the fans off, there's always going to be people that tune into everything they do, who give them money for everything they do. So I don't think, and it's a bad thing to say, until Vince dies or steps down, and we know he's going to die before he steps down, until Vince is gone in one way or another, I don't think any of this is ever going to change.
I think it gets worse after Vince dies, because then it goes to Nick Khan, somebody who barely knows anything about fucking pro wrestling. He's being groomed to be the new Vince McMahon.
Can you imagine if he leaves that company to Nick Khan?
Well,
like everyone's expecting Hunter and Stephanie.
No.
And then the big will reading, yeah, it's Nick Khan's now. Fucking Jesus Christ.
Last thing I'll say on this, and I promise we'll move on to this main event. They're getting to the point, and you don't have to look far. All you got to do is look on your fucking timeline, guys, on any social media about wrestling. WWE is getting to the point now, it's getting so bad. And it's not just the product's bad, it's fucking played out. It's boring. It's like taking a piece of goddamn bubblegum and you just keep stretching it and stretching it and stretching it. And guess what? It gets so thin it rips. Just the Brock and Roman shit is beyond besides 8-year-old kids, who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? If they take this 2-year title reign and put it on Brock Lesnar, that could be it for a lot of people. This is make or break right now with that decision, especially... Oh my, I didn't even want to get started on that. But they're getting to the point where the only goddamn fans I see on the timelines, they're two people. They're either these weird, horny stan accounts with diva avatars. Sasha Stan for life. Alexa, Baysha. But this weird stan culture, go away. Or the cocksucking E-drones. The Gareths, and I don't care if he's tagged and stuff. I don't like him. Girl on Cinema. All these assholes. And they're purposely contrary. And they know what they're defending is bullshit. But you don't get attention by saying the same thing everyone else is saying, do you? You don't get attention when you fall in line like a sheep. I don't see how any person could defend an episode of Monday Night Raw at this point. I don't. What are you defending? Jesus Christ. This main event was really fucking good, Matt.
Nice segue. This main event was given all the bells and whistles you could have hoped for. They got, I didn't catch their names, Travis, but some women came to sing the Canadian national anthem. This was special. Like, this could have been a WrestleMania main event for all the effort they put into it, all the hype they gave it. And obviously the crowd were ready. Howard Finkel introduces, I think it was, who's this? Ralph Klein, and then Stu and Helen Hart, again, get a massive ovation. And I don't know whether this didn't even have to be a match for the fans, I don't think. You could have just introduced the Harts and then just had them stood there for 40 minutes.
It's also easy to get a standing ovation when like 2/3 of the arena is your immediate family tree, I feel like.
Yeah. In some way, everyone in that crowd was related to Bret Hart.
Any single Hart member over the years, from the Keiths to the Bruces to all of them that you could picture, they're in this crowd.
Yeah.
All the characters.
Absolutely.
Ross, Zuder, all these fuckers.
It is nice, though, to watch this match and see that not just the crowd, but everybody involved in this match knew their role perfectly. Austin knew he was the heel going into this. LOD knew they were going to get a reception that they hadn't got in 10, 15 years.
It's kind of like old boots for Goldust. He already knew how to work this kind of style, so it was perfect for him.
Absolutely. And I have to say, Davey Boy Smith couldn't have had a reaction as beloved as the one he got here since SummerSlam 92.
You know that little like somersault nip up he always did? God, they lost their fucking minds for that.
They lost their minds at absolutely everything. Owen Hart just knocking Austin on his ass. They were off their fucking chairs.
Do you know the most beautiful part about this match for me? And it speaks to just how good Pat Patterson and Bret Hart were at putting this kind of match together. The finish and the payoff to this match was to get a mid-card feud over. So Owen Hart got the shine, and I love that. Because it was a time when they still made you give a fuck about the IC title. What a concept.
I can't disagree with it. If you look at this match on the face of it, it was... It's a weird one to explain, because this was sort of the end of Bret and Austin, but also the start of Austin and Owen in a way. So they ended one feud and began another mid-match.
Exactly, and it made sense too, finish-wise, because the guy that Bret was facing at the next pay-per-view wasn't in the match at all. So it made no sense for like Bret to pin Austin or Bret to pin Shamrock. That did nobody any favors.
No, it didn't. And I love the little harkbacks they did to previous things. The standoff with all, 10 of them?
Yeah.
10 of them in the ring. That goosebump moment. They went back to Survivor Series 96 in a little tease when Bret tried to pin Austin when he didn't let go of the $1 Million Dream. Loved that. And then Owen Hart, I think, probably the star of this match in the end.
Yeah.
He had the story of having to be taken to the back, after getting beat up, and then coming back later on to help save the Hart family from certain defeat. It was all set up really for Bret was the hero coming in, Owen was the hero coming out.
Yeah, in a way, kind of I want to say a mini passing torch right there to his little brother.
I think this. I mean, WrestleMania 10 would have been it.
Right.
The passing of the torch moment. But I think Bret Hart did Owen a great service here.
For sure. I've never seen a match, too, where you're watching a match on TV and the crowd's so loud naturally that the hard cam shakes. I've never seen that happen more times in one match than I did in this match. At least like 6 times the hard cam shook from just the crowd cheering.
And again, it added to how special it was. You'd never see that again. We never saw it before in your house or Maybe with Hogan, if you watched carefully once or twice, but this was
Right.
just like full on earthquake.
This was the epitome of when people say a spectacle. This was a spectacle. Everything about it.
Absolutely. Did you find the end of the match where Owen just rolled Austin up? Did that leave you a little
Lackluster.
bit? Yeah. You had this great match. It must have gone 40 minutes. And for people who are thinking, fuck me, 40 minutes. It wasn't a bad 40 minutes.
Right.
It was a great 40 minutes. And then it just ends. Owen just rolls Austin up from behind after Austin has a comical brawl, shall we say, with Stu and the Hart.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
They
big
just throw
tiger.
the drink on. They just throw the drink. Beat up.
No, we had
Brilliant.
to get Bruce his fucking shine. God knows Bruce has to get involved.
Oh dear. But the
I
end,
think I think as much, and I totally agree, and I think it had to have been so tough to book this feud at the time because you got to be careful because had this been in America, Owen just could have won, maybe like hitting him with a crutch or some, but they had to be careful doing that here, so they kind of still had to look like heroes in Canada. It's just weird. I'm glad I wasn't in the booking committee, trying to figure out how to book this. So was it the best route to go with kind of making the heels? I don't know. It is what it is, I guess.
I think it was an impossible task.
Yeah.
Because you knew American audience was watching, so Austin can't tap out to a sharpshooter because then that diminishes him in America. He has to be cheated out of it some way, but not in a way that the Hearts look weak in Canada. What a nightmare to have.
I'm glad I didn't have to have it. I will say, as much of this was awesome and my favorite in your house, it does end on a really, to get serious, it does end on a really sad note when you see Owen holding Oj in there with Martha. It's so sad. And so many people in that ring and in the match in general who aren't with us anymore. It's insane and it's really sad. And it's an eye-opener. And if I was like Natalia or Tyson Kidd, who Tyson Kidd was in there as a kid, if you look hard enough, guys, it's awesome to have this as like kind of like a video scrapbook in a way. It's got to be amazing to have this for the family.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, but then you look at it as a fan and you just think, God damn, like the years were just not kind to the Hart family.
It's just Brett left on that team, and that's, wow.
It's horrible, isn't it, when you look at it and think the whole of that team, apart from Brett, is dead now. And all of them before their time as well.
Every one of them. And to think, especially for Pillman and Owen, what could have been. These guys were right there ready to break out when this shit happened, you know? Ugh, it's so sad. But that is one of the best things AEW has done, and I'm so thankful that finally somebody is able to get the rights and have an Owen Hart tournament. Just do, and I can't wait to see what they do with that. And I know you love the t-shirt, and the merch looks great.
So I am going to buy the t-shirt, but I don't know. I won't watch the Owen Hart tournament, obviously, because I'm not going to be able to get a lot of it over here.
Right.
But if any of it's great, then I'll trust your recommendation and seek it out.
I'd like to see Pillman Jr. win it. I think that would be kind of fitting.
That would be a great. The only other one would be Davey Boy Smith Jr. if they brought him back in for it.
Right. Maybe it would kind of rub people a little wrong if Pillman Jr. won it. Now maybe say, since he's such a young guy, maybe have him come down to the finals and put on a good showing, but maybe have a guy like Andrade win it in the finals, or so, because they've done nothing with Andrade, which is criminal.
Yes, yeah, but I was going to say, like, as long as they do something with the winner of it, and it's not just, as long as it's like a King of the Ring style thing where the winner goes on to something bigger, and it's not just used for publicity's sake. It's not just a cup that people win and never. You never hear of again till the next year.
Yeah.
This has Tony Khan. I've heard a lot of good things about Tony Khan as a booker. I'm trusting that he knows how much Owen Hart meant to the wrestling community.
I think he does.
And how much this, the whole tournament and the the merchandise and the figures that are coming out, how long we've been waiting for something and someone to recognise his legacy and memory. So I'm hoping, and that would go a long way with people, I think, who don't like AEW or who won't watch it out of protest. Or people like me who just don't give it the time of day. I think that would go a long way towards softening them to AEW.
Exactly. I agree. And I think that wraps it up. And I will say it's the first time I've ever done this in all the years with you. I think it's safe to say we're both going to have the exact same grade for this. A's across the board for this show, Matt.
Absolutely. Miles ahead of any In Your House we've had so far. I think of any In Your House to come. Every match was great to excellent. Crowd were tremendous. If you're going to watch one In Your House, make it this one. You will not regret it.
And Matt, we've come to the point now where the next time we return on our Retro In Your House Roundup, we visit the genesis of one of the greatest rivalries in WWE history. Ground Zero. It's fucking time to get into some Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. I cannot wait. Finally.
And for I don't know when that's good. It might be next week. It might be the week after. We've got to get NXT UK back on track, Travis. But this month, we will have NXT UK for February. We will have In Your House 17, and we will have Question Time number 2. So that is what March is looking like.
And you're going to have a special solo episode on WrestleMania 10.
And we are also, I think, first week of April, we're going to do another WrestleMania retro review. People are voting on that on Twitter as we speak. So go over to @Union Smack on Twitter, vote on that, and again, you will shape the first Union Smack of April.
It's like Taboo Tuesday all over again.
Only better booked.
Well, my friend, I'm going to try to do you a favor right here. I'm going to try to take half your workload off. Follow me on Twitter @HussHogan. Check us out and now on almost any streaming service you can imagine. Audible, Stitcher, Spot, Podbean, Anchor, you name it, we're on it. Matt, where can everyone check out your book?
You can find me on Twitter @BruceMate. Follow the show on Twitter @Union Smack, and you can go to lulu.com where you can pick up a copy of my book, The Undertaker: A Trip Down Death Valley in NXT UK Year 1. As you always, I am putting together the King of the Ring book. I'm going to have a bit more time than I thought to work on it, certainly in the next few weeks. But if you've missed any of that, if you didn't get any of the links, then go to our Podbean page at unionsmack.podbean.com. And all the links are at the top for all the social media, all the merchandise, and all the icons are just below the heading for all of the podcast platforms.
And as always, right here, if you're watching us on YouTube, Hibiki TMD, subscribe, retro gaming, pro wrestling, heavy metal, and now horror podcast, brand new Horrors of Hibiki show debuting with my co-host, TJ. Check it out. Excited to do it. Until next time, Union Smack. Cheerio.